Attention.
Hola.
Hello.
How's everyone?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Let's see. Okay, we have everybody here. Okay. Let me take a quick look here. Okay, so today we're going to focus on getting the where are you going, where have you been prompt done. It is due today, so this is your time to do it. And it is a little bit different than previous prompts from different stories. I'm sharing my screen with you. I think it looks a little bit different for you, but this is just from my view. And you'll probably recognize these pro-con things from the PowerPoint yesterday. So what you're going to do for this prompt, and it's still, the same, same length, same kind of deal where like if you quote, you need to cite it. But you're going to pick one of the interpretations below or choose one of your own. You can come up with your own thing. And create an argument using quotes from the story to support your interpretation. So the first option that you could do is a feminist critical interpretation, which kind of goes with the idea that women are oppressed spiritually, psychologically, mentally, and physically by societal norms created by men. So the idea is that this story represents that. It's a feminist allegory. So if you're agreeing that it is, then your argument would be that Connie's forced to go with Arnold Friend and surrender herself to him, and kind of consider what the ramifications of surrender in this case mean. If you don't agree with that and want to write your response about how you think that's stupid and you don't agree with it, then you would interpret it as Connie chooses to go with Arnold Friend of her own free will. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday with her like deciding to sacrifice herself for her family. And in that way, she could be kind of, well, she wouldn't be like a feminist victim at any rate. The second interpretation you could go with, and again, you can go pro or con here, is the interpretation that the story is a dream. And if you want to support that, you could say that Connie dreams the whole experience and perceives herself as making a noble sacrifice for her family, but that's that just happens in a dream. And then if you disagree with that, you would say that the story actually happens and you'd need support, which honestly, like the article that we read yesterday would probably be a good place to start if you decide that you want to refute the idea that the story is a dream. The third option is the interpretation that Arnold Friend is the devil. And if you agree with that and want to write about that as your interpretation, you could consider the archetypal journey into temptation and devil archetypes for your analysis. And you don't specifically have to stick with the ideas that we read about in the presentation yesterday if you're going with this interpretation. You can kind of, if you interpreted things a certain way, then that's totally fine. If you think that that is dumb and you don't agree that he's supposed to be the devil, then you would kind of be saying that he doesn't have to be necessarily proven the savior, but he's also like, there's not any evidence that he's a devil. And the last option is that he is a savior. With that interpretation, you can kind of play into the Bob Dylan thing, based on the description and kind of being an allusion to Bob Dylan, who acted as a savior or messiah for the masses during the 60s by showing people the way to truth. And we can talk a little bit more about Bob Dylan stuff tomorrow, and we will. But just knowing what you know, you could write a short thing supporting that. If you think that is not true, that's also fine. You can argue that it's not. So these are a lot of options, actually. I mean, it's 4 interpretations, but you have multiple options on each of them. But then keep in mind, you could also come up with your own thing. I know a couple of you guys mentioned several interesting ideas, like on our way out yesterday. You could talk about how rock music is a bad influence and that like the whole story is sort of an allegory about that. We talked about the drug thing. You could argue that it's like directly a not allegory, but like a parallel to the Pied Piper of Tucson thing. So it's up to you, but you're just picking one of those interpretations and supporting that particular interpretation of it using quotes to support it. Still 150 to 200 words, which is honestly so little. Like every time I look at y'all's responses, I'm like, there's no way they met the word count. But everyone always does. Also just wanted to reemphasize that it is actually very important that you do these. A couple of people have not done a couple of them, and it really does affect your grade. As I'm looking sort of at the grade book here, several people are doing very well in this class, and I feel like, particularly in light of the fact that we haven't had an essay yet, I feel like it's pretty easy to do very well in this class, because you do have multiple chances at quizzes. So if you've read it, it should be okay. And for the most part, like y'all have been doing really, really well in the quizzes. And honestly, like if you do the prompts, then you pretty much are making good grades on it, unless you're just going like really off book and writing about something totally irrelevant, which nobody has done yet. So some people are doing really incredibly well in here, and I think it's easier to make a very high score in this class than it is in 101. Just because there's so much more like just recall with the stories and then like opinion based responses. Now we will have an essay coming up, so that could affect some of you guys, but just wanted to reemphasize, if your grade's not where you want it to be, it's probably because you have not turned some stuff in. So we need to make sure that we're doing those and doing them on time. And I will remind you that the first thing I posted in this class, I think, was the due date calendar, which I don't think I've changed it at all since I gave it to you guys. Maybe like one thing, but it's pretty set. So if you don't look at that very often, I know that some of you do because I see your little icons up at the top of it. But bookmark that page or take a screenshot of it or something and keep it on your desktop. I would recommend that. Okay, so this is the time to get the prompt done. You may leave and work on it on your own if you prefer to stay and either ask questions, run ideas past me if you're not sure if your interpretation works the way you want it to. I'll be here also if you just want somebody to kind of hold you accountable until you're finished writing it. That's a good idea too. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and y'all just let me know if you need me.